everybody. Welcome to today's bi-weekly Gentian webinar update. It is great to have you on the webinar with us today as usual. We thank you for your time and whatever you stepped away from doing to spend the next 30 minutes or so with us. We do appreciate that. Lots to be grateful in the world today. The weather is pretty nice here in Wisconsin, so that's been pretty good for us here. I know a lot of you that we've been talking to, or some of you have been talking to, are starting your travels or already been on your travels. So if that's the case for you and your family, we wish you very safe travels and wherever you may be going. Most of it's Arizona, Florida, all the warm places that are out there. So we wish you safe travels for you and your family. Enjoy your time, enjoy those memory-making moments that you're having, and really fulfilling that true wealth that we talk about from time to time as well. So with that being said, as you know, we like to go big here at Gentian. So I'll kick it off here. My go big is the ability to be coaching right now, fifth grade girls basketball. So very much a challenge, but very much so fulfilling to watch these girls and what they started off doing versus where they are now. And it's really quite amazing the progress that they're making. I'm so proud of them. For any of those who you have coached out there, you know what I'm talking about. It doesn't have to be sports, could be teaching, could be in the classroom, could be whatever the case may be. But to watch progress happen, to watch the spirits rise up, to watch the confidence happen, it really is a wonderful thing. And I'm totally grateful for that. So with that being said, I'm going to pass it over in line here to go to Angie. Angie, what are you grateful for these days?
Ken. I'm going to keep it pretty simple today. I am grateful that the sun is shining. Changes really the dynamic of the day. So it's been kind of a while, I feel like. So I'm just happy to feel the sun on my face and see the brightness outside.
Very nice, Angie. Yeah, it does change your mood, doesn't it? That is for sure. So Mike, how about you? Well, what are you grateful for? Mike, I think you might be muted.
You are correct. I am grateful for the unmute button. No, but seriously, to start today, I just want to share that, I'm pretty grateful for our own Zach DeBoer. He's become one of my best friends since starting with the firm 4 years ago now. And man, it's crazy. That's been 4 years. But thinking about it, we bounce ideas off each other all week long. It never really turns off. We just really enjoy, doing those sort of things. And truly, when I'm out here on the East Coast, he's the only one who's awake when I am to be able to talk to. So I appreciate that.
That's great, Mike. Yeah, it's good to have Zach. Zach's a great teammate, great advocate for our clients as well. So just a good guy to have on the team. So Zach, with that being said, you're the man of the hour right now. So what are you grateful for?
Geez, super humbled, and I did not pay any of them to say that, surprisingly. But yeah, Mike texted me or messaged me via Teams at 4:45 a.m. right before my alarm went off to wake up the other day. So that's what he's referring to there. But so many things to be grateful for, as always. As many of you know, or if you don't know, I lead a lot of volunteering downtown Milwaukee with a lot of my fitness groups. And this week, Saturday, we're going to have one of our best turnouts, I believe, so far of doing it for the last 6 months. So just very humbled and blessed to be able to do that with my friends that are focused on growth just in general, but giving back to the community. And also just extremely grateful for one-on-one meetings with each of you and how much inspiration you bring us. Had some recent meetings lately of clients sharing how much they are in servant leadership. And it's incredibly inspiring to me. And it's the reason for a lot of the things that I do in my personal life. So we're just extremely blessed to be on this journey with you.
That's great, Zach. That's wonderful. So well done. Thank you for all your contributions that you do, both here in the office and also in the community. It's very much appreciated. So we appreciate the clients as well. So yeah, so a lot going on in the markets today. A lot of buzzwords still going on with the Federal Reserve and what they're doing. Are we in a recession? Are we not in a recession? There's all this conversation that's going on, and the chatter is becoming louder and louder and louder. And so what we want to do today is talk about a few things. We're going to have Mike's minutes, of course. Might be more than a minute, might be a couple minutes. We're going to get into Zach's facts. I can't call it Ken's Corner anymore because I'm the one hosting right now. So that's like talking in the third person. So that becomes strange. But we're going to have some planning topics here as well. And then, of course, we're going to end it with the Gentian and happenings with our very own Angie Zilka at the end. So yeah, with that being said, I'm gonna hand it over to Mike and just see what's going on with the markets, any planning ideas that Mike may have. He's kind of stepping into a few roles here as far as the planning goes as well. So we'd like to hear what's on your mind, Mike.
Hey, thanks, Ken. So yeah, I'm excited to bring to you that the markets are up this year. Year to date, the S&P 500 is up 4.39%. The Dow Jones Industrial Index up 2.45%. The NASDAQ Composite up 6.91%, and the Russell 2000, those small caps, leading the way at up 7.59%. On the international side of things, we're up 7.44% year to date. And taking a look at some of those numbers, it's great. It's great to hear, but we got to keep that in perspective. I want to share this trailing 12 months for you as well. So S&P 500 trailing 12 down 12.43%. Dow Jones down 4%. NASDAQ down 22.86%, Russell 2000 down 9.6%, and these international stocks down 9.72%. So it's very interesting to see, that's what we talk about when we say when something's leading the way for a short period of time, you can't just jump necessarily on the bandwagon for it. Although the Dow had the best trailing 12-month performance, it has done the poorest year to date. So interesting to think about some of those things and why we rebalance and why we own things in different sectors. And on that note, I want to discuss something that's very, very interesting to me, and I hope it'll be just as interesting to you, which is portfolio construction. Kind of a little bit of peel back the curtain, show you a little bit of what we do behind the scenes when we put things together and what we review and what we do on a relatively regular basis. So, and to just support some of the philosophy it's always very interesting. And one of the best ways to do that, and as I share my screen really quickly here, is that we like to take a look at how things have performed on a year-over-year basis. So can I get a nod from somebody on the call that you guys can see this right here? Cool. So this is a chart that comes from JP Morgan. They share some great ideas that we're able to implement some of their charts and some different things like that. We always work with some of these companies as partners rather than being kind of, friendly competition from that standpoint. But taking a look at this, you see a lot of different colors. And that's all in a lot of different ways that you really need to see. So this top line here are the best performers each individual year. And all of those different colors, what that's showing you is something different has outperformed on a year-over-year basis, and why a diversified portfolio is so important. Because, people can think that they can predict what's going to happen. They can think that something's going to outperform on a year-over-year basis. But if they're wrong, you could end up at the bottom of this. So asset allocation, which you can kind of see this line bouncing up and down. Now, this isn't our recommended portfolio allocation. It's just a standard index that shows kind of a mix of everything, kind of falls right in the middle of the road here. And what you accomplish with that is your goals, your savings goals, your retirement goals. That's where we need to be, that sweet spot, so that we can capture the upside when, on a year that REITs, which are, those real estate investment trusts, or large cap or anything like that is outperforming on those year-over-year basis. We want to be able to capture that. We also want to be able to capture the downside so that we can rebalance. One of the coolest ones here, if you look in 2021, best performer, you'll see REITs, real estate, outperforming. Look at what the worst performer was in 2022, REITs. So the opportunity that we have to sell something that's done well and buy some of those other ones in that moment, bring that thing back to the core allocation of whatever that percentage is, so that you capture less of that downside going forward. It's just, it's discipline. It's being true to the plan. And at the end of the day, when we do this annual rebalance, that's what that shows. That's that outperformance that we can capture, but also be able to invest in something on the downside. So that being said, throughout the portfolio itself, we implement a couple different strategies, right? And it's based upon risk tolerance. So we want to look at some of the safer investments as being the ones that are more heavily weighted based upon the amount of volatility that an individual investor can handle year over year. And you've all had this conversation with us. We've gone into detail regarding the investments that you own, and we'll go into as much or as little as you want. Happy to get into the weeds or keep you out of them. But one of the cool things that we like to do is split something between growth and value. And that's equities is what I'm speaking to right now. So those value equities, that's going to be the asset class that essentially are those big cash yielding companies. They're making a lot of money. They got products that are everywhere. Think Procter and Gamble, for instance. And this is not a recommendation to go and buy any of these individual stocks, just an example of what it actually is. And so from that standpoint, they pay dividends. They keep their share price low. They trade at a good valuation. So safe, big, well-established companies. Growth companies, think about something that's constantly innovating. Maybe it started off as an online bookstore and now it's literally leaving packages everywhere in pretty much the entire country. That's a company that continues to grow. And now their main source of business is, data. And so thinking about some of those things and what can create, that's a growth company. And we like to do an even split between our equity section. So what this shows is an example of how these things outperform. When you see the top of this chart here, it shows the growth cycle. This shows the value cycle. Now you can see growth is a lot more volatile. Think about that. Companies that invest all their money back into themselves, there's going to be ups and downs. Value, a little bit more steady, but still you see these things kind of moving. Now from face value, they look kind of like they're moving in the same direction. You do an overlay of those. And more often than not, in times when growth is outperforming, now this ends at 2020, right? Last year, value greatly outperformed growth. So the script is flipped. And now this year, growth has led the way through the first 18 days of the year. So extremely interesting and extremely great example of why we own both of them. But as you can see, they like to move in opposite directions. So at the end of the day, it's to stay diversified, as I've said almost every single one of these. And I really enjoy showing you guys a little bit more of kind of what we're looking at with the research that we do and things from that standpoint. Thanks. Back to Ken's corner. I can say that. So.
All right, Mike, we appreciate that. That was a great look behind the curtain on how we construct a portfolio for you all for a great retirement, to make sure there's something there that you can count on as far as income goes for a great 25, 35, 45 year type of retirement. So that's all the bits and pieces that go into it. Mike brought up something very, very key. It's all about discipline. It goes for leadership, that maybe a role in leadership you're in, maybe you're in retirement and you have a discipline that you are finding yourself in. It's all about the discipline with athletes. Not everybody wants to get up and put your shoes on and go for a run every day, but it's the discipline that makes you great. And that's no different than the discipline you all showed us over a long period of time with your investing, with your long-term goal planning that we've been doing. Is you have wonderful discipline. Not everybody can handle the volatility that we're going through right now. It's not easy to get through, but because of your discipline, we give you guys a great round of applause, because you are doing a wonderful job staying on course. And as you know, one of our guiding principles that we've been talking to you about for a long, long time now, and I don't think we're going to change it at all, is that we have to continually act on our long-term plan, continually act in what's our best interest for the long term. If we make those decisions together, we stay disciplined together like that, boy, oh boy, we're going to have some really great results. I just have a feeling with that one. So with that being said, I do have to throw in a dad joke. I know Chris isn't here today, but I have to throw in a dad joke. But today in history, January 18th, 1980, for all you music fans out there, Pink Floyd's album The Wall hit the top the charts at number one. So staying on the theme of music, I was in a job interview the other day, and they asked me if I could perform under pressure. I said no, but I could perform Bohemian Rhapsody. So all of you 70s and 80s music fans out there, you'll get that one. You know exactly what that means. So with that being said, I'm going to hand it over to Zach, and he's going to talk about some planning, things that are going on, and also some Zach's facts.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ken. Really appreciate you going through that, Mike, in more detail as well, to kind of peel back the curtain of what we do there, because one of the ones that we're most excited about this year is rebalancing and the impact that had last year in mitigating risk. Like you saw the giant swings on top of the jelly bean chart to the bottom, staying a little bit more consistent, but last year scooping up a lot more shares, more than likely in large cap growth, small cap growth, and a few others. But as you guys have seen over the last few weeks, the Secure Act 2.0 was passed just before Christmas last year. We released a few of the items to note right after it came out last week or the week before. But as this rule came out, there's actually even more in here that is worth going through for each of you, depending on where you're at, or for your kids or grandkids potentially as well. A few of those that we'll touch on is the required minimum distribution age that you guys have heard. There's confusion whether it's 72, 73, 75. We'll go through a few catch-up contribution changes starting in 2024, a few emergency fund or emergency access to your IRA retirement dollars starting in 2024 as well. And then just a few planning considerations when it comes to 529 plans and being able to convert those to Roth up to the contribution limits if they're open for 15 years. Starting with the required minimum distribution age. If you're already taking required distributions, you can tune me out right now because it doesn't change what you guys have going. But if you're born 1950 or earlier, age 72 is still the number. If you're born between 1951 and 1959, the required minimum distribution age is now age 73. If you're born 1960 or later, it is now 75. So we love to see this because it allows us to plan potentially longer. Before, we only really had a window to age 70 and a half to do things like Roth conversions. Other planning there, they did not change the QCD age of 70 and a half yet either. So it just allows for 5 more years of potential tax planning that we can go through with you. The last one, or a few other ones that I wanted to touch on, there's a requirement for catch-up contributions. So if you're age 50 and older, you're able to put more into your retirement accounts if you're still working. Starting in 2024, if you make more than 145,000, those monies actually have to go into a Roth account instead of going into a pre-tax account. So very interesting what they're doing there. Really, the purpose is just to get more tax dollars now for a lot of the spending that's going on. As I mentioned in the beginning, there's going to be some emergency withdrawals and access to IRAs starting in 2024. If you're subject to a 10% penalty, so if you're under 59 and a half, you can actually take $1,000 a year and not have a 10% penalty. And depending on the retirement plan through an employer, they might actually create a separate account that people can contribute to up to $2,500 that they can actually access without penalty as well. And then anything above beyond there goes into a Roth. So very interesting with what they're doing there. And the last one wanted to touch on is just the use of 529 funds. A big concern for a lot of our clients that have young children or young grandchildren is that, well, what if they don't go to college, right? How are these funds going to be used? With the Secure Act, they're allowing up to $35,000 per beneficiary to be actually rolled into a Roth IRA for that child. So it may allow for more money to go into those. It has to be open for 15 years and it's up to the contribution limit. So if the grandchild was 18 years old and they made $3,000, you'd only be able to put in $3,000 from the 529 into there. But really amazing to be able to do that. And it could be a really massive way to have kids or grandkids or great grandchildren actually start with a little bit of a head start into their retirement savings and long-term savings. Really interesting with what's coming with the Secure Act. We're staying on top of it as best we can for you and giving you what is applicable to you. There's a lot in here and a lot is constantly changing. But with that, I'll pass it back to you, Ken.
Yeah, thank you, Zach. I appreciate that. Great update on Secure Act 2.0. Some say the Secure Act is making a lot of families feeling unsecure these days. So a lot of changes going on, but we're on top of them. I think we have a program coming up. I believe it's in April. I'll be at with another Ed Slot Elite IRA, Masters Elite IRA program. And that's where we sit through 3 or 4 days of tax laws, IRA rule changes that are happening. So it's a riveting 3 days, but it's an important 3 days. You know, it's a long 3 days, but it's an important 3 days because we get to learn so much, bring it back to you all to make sure that we're continually acting on our plan and making sure we're getting the structure of your planning correct, because that's something that we very much can control for you. Can't control what the markets are doing, as you know, but we certainly can control the structure of your plan. We can control that outcome that we see there for you as well. So great update, Zach. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. Very, very, very much. So a couple additional planning ideas before we go over to the Gentian and Happings, if you will, that I'm seeing right now is that when you look at your required minimum distribution, so if you're up for a distribution this year in 2023, they're going to be lower than what you're used to. They're about 15% on average, about lower than they were the year before. And the reason for that is because, as you know, last year was a tough year in the markets and they were temporarily down. whatever the balance, your ending account balance for your IRA was, your traditional IRA at the end of the year, has a lot to do with how much we have to take out. There's also a life expectancy factor that we have to take out as well. So that's the reason why they're going to be temporarily down this year, the RMD amounts. Now, that opens up some wonderful planning opportunities for us, because if things are 15% lower on the amount that we have to take out, that might open the door up for more Roth conversion planning. That also depends on what capital gains are going to look like at the end of the year. If there are going to be any capital gains, most likely there will be some sort of capital gains. Depends on what happens in the markets. It depends what happens with certain companies that are out there. So lots of things to keep an eye on this year when we sit down with you and go through your planning meetings that we're going to be going through, and some we've already started with that. We're going to be talking about these ideas and how to help you maximize what you currently have and help you optimize and filling up those tax brackets and all the geeky stuff that we like to get into with you all. So that's the one I see right now. Don't forget about your qualified charitable distributions. Wonderful time. Great time to take money from your IRA and offer it to the charities that you feel so strongly about. A lot of you do it. Some of you are, learning more about that, and we're here to help educate you as much as possible on if that's a strategy that you like to use. It's very, very much a tax efficient way to give to a charity from your IRA. So another thing that I'm seeing, I'm just going to go through a couple more planning ideas here, is outdated estate plans. I've seen a couple of them now in the last 3 weeks of doing reviews with you all. Some are 10 to 15 years old. A lot has changed in the last 10 or 15 years. Your wishes, your feelings, your outlook on your legacy might have changed as well in the last 10 or 15 years. So our relationship with money changes as we get older. So when we typically when we're younger, we have none of it when we need the most of it. And then when we get older, we start to accumulate it because we've been disciplined enough to have it. But our relationship changes with money over time. In some of your planning, you may start to change your planning to it a little bit as your relationship with your money changes over time as well. So we're here for you, but just to keep an eye on that piece is the estate planning piece, because nothing could be worse probably than something happening and all of a sudden we have outdated information. Your wishes aren't even going to be executed the way you wanted them to be. So we're certainly here to help you out with that and guide you to the right attorney or the right solution for that as well. So lastly, when it comes to the planning, I've seen a couple of these older life insurance policies that you all have or may have. Life insurance and cash value life insurance back in the 70s and 80s was in the 90s was a very common practice. It was a very common thing, kind of like buying life insurance policies on children when they were born. That was a common thing that happened year in, year out. Now, some of those policies that you may have had have been around for a long time. They have cash value built up in them if that's the case. But if it's a term policy, they don't have cash value. But if your relationship with money and your relationship with your needs are changing, covering the mortgage may not be the case anymore with the life insurance because the mortgage is close to being paid off or is paid off. Now maybe your focus might be on, hey, what if we need care? What if we need health care in the future? What does that look like for us? What are our concerns there? There's ways to parlay the older things that you've accumulated and parlay it into something newer for you that will help you protect maybe a long-term care event or some sort of need that you have that you might be concerned about in the future as well. So just keep that in mind. These are some of the things that we're seeing there. So with that being said, we do like to talk about Plan It, Live It, Give It here at Gentian. I'm going to bring Angie on here in 1 second. I see her popped on there for a little bit there. Chris brought a great book to us recently. We read it as a team. I don't know if this was talked about or not at a recent webinar, but it was a great book. It was called Leadership and Self-Deception. And here at Gentian, we try to always be getting better for you, AGB, always getting better for our team here, always getting better for you. It was a great book. And really what it was is, do we deceive ourselves from time to time? Do we lie to ourselves basically? Or are we stuck in our own box, if you will? A great example was if you're on an airline and, especially with Southwest, if you're an early boarder, you kind of get to pick the seat that you want to sit in. And sometimes you put your bag in the middle seat, hoping no one's going to sit next to you. But then you watch everybody come on the plane to see if they're looking at your seat or if they're looking at you. We've all been through that. And sometimes if we just move our bag over to our own lap and welcome someone into that middle seat, sometimes that can be a better outcome for you, can also be a better outcome for just the feelings we have towards people, not just closing ourselves down all the time, but also opening it up, as well. So that was just one example. There's plenty of examples in the book, but really it's about getting better. It's about, do we lie to ourselves? Do we deceive ourselves? And then do we start to vilify other people because of something we didn't do? So it was a great book that Chris brought to our attention. We all read it as a group, and I thought it was pretty cool. So with that being said, we had a pretty recent birthday club, January birthday club, great turnout. So if you joined us for your January birthday, we appreciated seeing you. It was a great turnout. And so I know Angie's going to talk about some of the upcoming Gentian happenings coming up here. So Angie, why don't you enlighten us with what's going to happen here at Gentian coming up in the future?
Yeah. Thank you, Ken. So the first thing we're going to talk about, we're going to kick off the year with a holiday reset. Michelle Norris, we're going to start back up our health and wealth. She will be hosting a virtual webinar on Wednesday, January 25th. That's going to be from 10 to 11 a.m. Again, we're going to discuss just a holiday reset and go through some different things to get you moving. Following that, we have our Ladies and Gentian, which is going to be on Tuesday, January 31st, which is also our very own Julie's birthday. So that's going to be a fun day for us ladies to celebrate and get together. Again, this RSVP is also in the bulletin. So once you do RSVP for these events, you will receive a link. Our winter forum this year is also going to be virtual. That's going to be on February 8th. It's going to kick off at 9:30 in the morning. So grab your coffee and your blanket, stay warm, and join us for that. And also that link will be available in the bulletin. Just to reiterate, our birthday club is going to be February 15th. RSVPs in the bulletin for that as well. It's always so fun to get together and celebrate everyone's birthday. We have a great lunch and treats available, and we just have good conversation and really get to enjoy everyone's company. So I know there were a few that missed January, so feel free to join us in February as well. So that's what we have going on here in the next couple weeks.
Thank you, Angie. Appreciate it. A lot going on here at Gentian, a lot of time to be spent together. I thought at this recent one here, and maybe they've happened in the past as well, at the birthday club, we had 2 or 3 couples actually kind of hit it off, and they got to sit around the table, and next thing you know, they're exchanging numbers, and who knows, maybe there's a dinner party that's going to happen. But it's also about connection with you all as well. We love to see you, but you also can create new friendships as well based on that as well. So I thought that was a pretty cool connection that we had at our most recent one as well. So as always, plan it, live it, give it. Here at Gentian, we're here to help you plan your retirement. We're here to live the best retirement you possibly can. If giving is something that you're interested in, it's also part of what we can help you and define and help structure that as well. So we want to thank you all from the bottom of our hearts. You all were wonderful with introductions last year. We were able to establish some new relationships with some of your family members, friends, co-workers, people so we want to thank you very much for that. We appreciate that so much. Not everyone handles market volatility very well. Some handles it very well. Some get uneasy about it. So you ever happen to talking to somebody, in your circle that you hang out with, that they're uneasy about the markets or uneasy about their plan that's going on, just know that we have some capacity here at Gentian Financial as a planning team for the introductions that you do give us, and we do appreciate those very much. So with that being said, we thank you for your time very much. We thank you for joining us as usual. And if there's anything that if any of you need, big or small, you please give us a call. We'll certainly help you out in whatever you may need. So with that being said, thank you very much from the entire Gentian team. We appreciate you. Have a great day.